Hey folks, welcome to Comedy Central. It seems like it's been ages, but it's only been a week. So glad that you're here joining us in a live interactive stream or watching this in the playback. I have to tell you that I have had a rather very weird week. I will tell you that much. The week ended with some news that was inevitable, but it came to be, and just when I thought that life was horrible, I received an email this morning that invited me into a very special project. Normally, I would have refused it, but I chose to accept it. So what is that old proverbial saying, when a door closes, a window opens? So we'll see how that all goes. So let's see who is here. Jennifer J. from the Yukon. Hello. And the other Jennifer is here. Welcome. Thanks for coming. The Imam is here. Yeah, I'm not going to fall for that one, but you know what? Allah's great. All entities that help people improve are very great beings. I also know that Michele is also live streaming at the same time. I don't think I get too many from her camp, if you will. Hey, Mike Hunt, good to see you. Happy Saturday to you, sir. You've kept a low profile this week. I hope that means that you've been well behaved. One of the things for me is my screen setup has changed a little bit, so it's not what I am used to. Excuse me. I kind of don't like this new setup, but it's the setup that works. Militant Autist, welcome, man. I'm glad you are here. Militant, I do have the capability for calls, but right now I'm choosing not to do it just because I'm already struggling with audio and trying to figure out Discord as it is. I mean, it is possible for you to play your content into Discord and the person on the Discord call to talk to you. You saw that last week when Third Generation was co-hosting, which incidentally, folks, I will mention that Third Generation, if you saw his Third Generation German American, if you saw his video oh my goodness, yesterday, he had a little bit of an episode with the GERD and prophetic visions, and so he will not be here today. This is his second call off, though, in less than a month, so I am sure the HR department of Comedy Central will be contacting him this week. Oh, Allah will kick McKim hard. Yes, indeed. I'm sure he will. Hey, Zero, welcome. I'm glad you are here. Zero, I'm just going to pronounce it Zero, but it's probably Zero or some fancy name. When I can't sleep and I log into Bob, Zero and I kind of go back and forth, and it's hilarious. McKim's in the house. I haven't seen him yet. But by the way, Bob McKim, you are more than welcome to join our stream and comments. And if you happen to have a Discord, you're more than welcome to join us here. And maybe when I do start phone calls, like I said, I have the capability, you can call in. I just don't want to be like other people's shows where there's a shitload of bullshit calls. I know how to deal with them, but I would rather not. Incidentally, Militant Autist, if you happen to have Discord, you'd be more than welcome as a guest to call in to this show. Who will cover the urine break? Well, I don't know if I'm going to have a pee break, but that's a very good observation there, Imam. I have no shame in the fact that I have the world's smallest bladder. So this week, I've been busy, like I mentioned. I've had some personal and real world stuff going on, so I haven't had a lot of time to devote to different things. I know Tommy has put out some videos, and well, the alleged pedophile didn't even get 1 second of a view time from me. June Hines was very quiet. I put out a couple videos because I didn't want to have a 14-hour live stream, right? So I put out some videos talking about stuff. Incidentally, this is apple juice, since YouTube has turned into a police state more than a platform. So everybody enjoy your apple juice. One person I did kind of watch this week was Michele Marie Delaney. And, well, before I even get to her, earlier in the week, at some point during the week, I talked to my conversation with Bob, right? And I said, you know what? Comedy Central is all about pointing out inconsistencies and other bullshit. And there is a fine line between like character assassination and being observant. But one thing I did forget in that video is I also try to look at different channels as the outside viewer. So what is it that you record? What is it that you live stream? What is it on the stream in front of an everyday Joe? And I try, and I haven't really, since I started or came up with the concept of Comedy Central, I haven't really gotten personally involved with the lolcows that we talk about. I don't get involved in a drama on other platforms. I try to keep it to what is it that they put on the screen. And one of the things this week that I was very pleased with, if you will, is that Michele has finally started practicing having topics or themes. Most of her output this week has been about the debates. That's fine. And I went to her channel at one point really quickly, and she had, 2, 3, 4 people there at the time. And you know what? That's fine. She created this content. She stuck to that content. And she attracted the people who were interested in that content. So you know what? Kudos to you, Michele, for even starting to hold true to the things you want to cover. Now, there was another stream this week, which is streams that I personally enjoy. which is just like the shit shows. And when I say shit show here, I'm not talking in a derogative, but it's just like a hodgepodge, different comedy, different trolls, different people, different things. By the way, I do see the chat moving in my right eye, and I promise to get to you soon. But she had one of those, and it was probably, in my opinion, one of her highest engagement streams or shows in a very long time, since before the whole Tommy Tudor debacle and since before Rachella came on board, which I've thought it was very interesting that Rachella has been oddly very quiet lately. So I think Michele, with some practice, and I'm not saying that mean, but with some practice, Michele will finally be able to stick to content and stick to topics. So I see this chat rolling. Let me come over here and see what you all are saying. Zero, I am so sorry that happened to you in Go-Mart yesterday. They didn't. So in terms of like alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, and the rest, Zero, they put out yet another vague YouTube statement and video talking about, I don't believe they use the word controlled substances, but they're now targeting people who use, promote, show, otherwise, like drugs and alcohol and the rest. I'm not monetized, but I would still like to carry a channel that follows those guidelines. Robert McKim Sr. is here saying take down these websites where I'm calling the sheriff. Call the sheriff, Bob. I don't give a shit. Did you hear that? I don't give a shit. Call whoever you need to. Call Paige over at the recycling place, because you remember, she's a county official. Zero, what makes Lolcows tick? I don't think there's one formula across the board. It just depends on the person. You want to get on Bob, start talking about his fake degrees. You want to get on Michele, tell her to get a job. You want to get on Tommy, we'll talk about, what the hell is that guy's name? Parisho. Is it James Parisho? Jim Parisho? Whatever. I am sick and tired. I am drunk. Bob, we know you're drunk and most likely popping pills as you watch this. Hey, Den Man, welcome. Zero, alcohol is legal for people over 21. However, YouTube seems, in my opinion, to think that it's a bunch of 6-year-olds watching YouTube chronologically, not mentally. Hey, Fred, welcome. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you're here. Jennifer, I just don't think that I would want to even think about Renee naked. I will say, though, that when Bob tried to prove she was alive and pan the camera over, and so there's that mound of Renee in that recliner with her laptop going and her cell phone. She had on her glasses, and I thought, wow, those glasses added in some face value there. Throw in a little makeup. You know what I mean? I mean, she could instantly find somebody better than Bob. Imam, what was interesting is, so I show, and I just randomly Googled biohazard bags, and Amazon listing came up. If I don't know if you were here last week, but from last week, and I showed it on the screen. How much, and my goal there was how much do they cost. And then Bob bitched in one of his videos. They even, he, meaning me, even showed the exact bags that I bought. So clearly Bob bought his bags on Amazon, and I think they probably cost anywhere from $15 to $30, because I remember it said that the list price was like $30. When I created this, not the screen cap, but I took the browser image, it was at 19. And then during the live stream, it automatically refreshes, and it was actually down to 13. Then, man, I don't know what's up with Joe Hester's channel. It seems to me, though, that the FBI has taken a particular interest in his channel, probably because of Bob, because, Bob is part of the Homeland Security team, according to him. Wow, I just keep singling out Zero's comments. The thing with Renee that we know from other people is that Renee had been married to somebody else before Bob. Whatever happened. She met Bob, and Bob happened to have a car. And not just a car, folks, a car that worked. So Renee's attraction to Bob happens to be that he had a car that worked. As of last several videos, it's a car that really doesn't work. It's filled with piss ants and makes a horrible noise while it's driving, if you listen to any of them. Jennifer, I think you're right. At the same time, I can kind of sit back. I see that Bob sees Renee as a cash cow, and that Renee sees Bob as somebody who has a working vehicle and his own place so she can get out of the house. Well, Robert McKim Sr., I am so unhappy with you for turning Joe in, because Joe tells more of the truth than anything. All right, I think I am actually caught up on comments here. Yes, it's fiance wife, because, as far as the Social Security Administration is concerned, it's his fiance. As far as the rest of the world is concerned, it's his wife. Hey, Jennifer J. I don't know if I acknowledged you already, and I apologize, but I am glad you are here, Miss Jen. Did you make any good money out in the field today? Excuse me, my contact is hilarious. Getaway driver for Renee's next bank heist. Yeah, could you imagine that van going down the road? What the hell was that nursery rhyme where they left the breadcrumbs behind them? Was it Hansel and Gretel? I think it was. Whatever. I'm missing it today. I'm way overtired. But so instead of leaving breadcrumbs behind, Bob takes off to the bank and leaves piss ants behind. They just keep falling out of the van. God supplies spermatozoa. Yes, God always provides. You are so right, militant artist. So let me go into my next thing here, maybe, and type it. I don't understand why Renee's hands are suddenly purple. We have to go to the ER. So in a recent stream, I don't know if it was last week or when it was, but I finally came across it. Bob at some point had shown a picture of some kind of ID. As I first looked at this, I laughed because it listed allergies, none, health conditions, many, lists Renee and her phone number as the contact. But what I'm getting at here is we find that Bob is actually 5'5". No, I'm sure he's just 5'4" 1" and is rounding up. But according to this special ID that he's showing in this video, he is 5'5". So he is a little gnome. And I usually don't get involved when Bob is picking on other people because I figure other people can stand up for themselves. However, this time I'm making a little bit of an exception. So, third generation German American has made several videos this week, and Bobbert has made some videos, and I know you're all intelligent enough to make that connection. And Bob gets on his video as unqualified as you are, Bob, and says that third generation has dissociative identity disorder. Of course, Bob can't spit out that whole term, so he basically keeps saying that third generation German American is dissociative. Bob has a mail order, kind of accredited diploma in mental health, but he is in no position to recognize, diagnose, or treat anybody with any disease. But Bob, I know you're watching. I know you are. You probably circled this 82 times on your calendar. We were talking, you were talking about this dissociative identity disorder. And, well, Bob, I need to speak to you in your terms. Do you remember Della Reese? Remember Touched by an Angel? That's where you get most of your theological education from. Well, if I follow your reasoning, Della Reese also has dissociative identity disorder because she has played parts in many, many, many different movies and TV shows. She was in Touched by an Angel from 94 to 2003. She was in Harlem Nights. I'm not going to read through this all. She was in Chico and the Man from 74 to 78. So the person that you're learning all of your theology from must also have dissociative identity disorder. So what do you have to say about that? I am looking forward to your video tomorrow. All right, let me go over here to some chat. Oh, I gotta scroll up. Milk them cows. I tried that, man. I don't even try to milk them. I just try to point out what's obvious. What's obvious to me? Mel, welcome, Mel, by the way. I don't think I acknowledged you. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Bob placing Renee under citizen's arrest. Kind of sounds like something for Bob's Pornhub account. And yes, he does have a Pornhub account. Robert McKim Sr., I am glad you are fondling your penis. Yes, Jennifer, when he did that jalopy milk, I had near tears in my eyes. Let me see. Yes, the cornerstone of his faith is touched by an angel in Jim Baker. And who's that other guy he always retweets? Oh, God. Begley. You're right, my cunt. He just doesn't get it. He wants to make everybody wrong. Bob thinks that he is right. Did I say penis? Are you being funny? I don't know. I realize it's penis. Penis. Kind of like Pina. Remember the one who took your Tupperware, but you kind of showed us that you got it back? It's funny, you cried about the fact, Bob, that they were stealing your heirloom Tupperware, but you never told us that it was sitting there in your cabinet after however much time passed. Zero, you seem to know more about Bob than I do, because I don't know what he hacks to. So I don't know how many of you pay attention. He did. Yes, you're right. He talked about getting his grandfather's ceiling fan. And initially, Jennifer, I was thinking to myself, would you really want to put up something that old? Because if you're talking about your grandfather having a ceiling fan, it's got to be old. But then I remembered that trailer is probably from somewhere in the early 70s. So it was probably built and wired for that very ceiling fan that nobody will help him put in. Zero. That degree in Bobology, it's only available from the ULC monastery. Bob Dog, I don't even have Tupperware, so I do not know, but I'll take your word for it. Oh, I'm sure smoking is probably a new taboo. Don't give a shit, YouTube. So I am sure that you all... It's not 1995, Melhar. Get it straight. It's 20 even. That nickel matters. So over in... If you look up some reviews of the trailer park Bob lives in, and I've said before, and I need to say it again, I do blur stuff out because I'm not allowed to dox people, but I do 110% realize that Bob doxes himself. So, in any case, look at this review of the mobile home park that he lives in. This person wrote, and by the way, before I even get to there, look at the bottom. Here's Renee McKim, who gave the trailer park that they live in 3 out of 5 stars. But in any case, somebody wrote, used to love living here, but the resident busybody ruined it for me. His trailer is visibly decaying. It smells like there's a sewage leak in its general area. He walks around the park wearing a yellow hoodie covered in patches, screaming into a camcorder with a pistol in his waistband, and going door to door asking for his neighbors to buy his groceries. I felt unsafe letting my kids around the park with that unhinged maniac roaming around. He installed a siren and yellow light bar to his van and routinely blasted at high volume late at night and early in the morning. The last straw was when I caught him digging through my garbage. Would not recommend moving here until he's removed from the park. So there is a review. Folks, I'm not making this up. It's actually out there in a trailer park review place. This is what's out there. So I also flipped through the Free Press Standard. It comes out every Thursday, and I immediately I immediately go to the Free Press Standards, not necessarily on Thursday, but probably on Friday. And since this review has posted, this past Thursday's edition of the paper says that there's now a mobile home for sale. A 2-bedroom mobile home on Lot K, which is, don't want to dox him, but it's, if you know where Bob lives, it's not too far. They're asking for $1,000 or better offer. Leave a message at this number. So these people are now vacating the trailer park. I also look at it as, here's this person saying they want $1,000 or better offer. Their place just has to be better than Bob's place. So maybe we need to start a GoFundMe to move Bob from his hoarder's shit nest over to Lot K. All right, let me check some chat here. Yeah, Zero. Bob with the gun scares the shit out of me. And you know, Bob Dog, I don't think Bob's digging through people's garbage to take stuff. I think Bob's digging through his neighbor's garbage to find evidence. Oh, Robert McKim Sr., it was clearly you. You're right, Jennifer. You know, Yahoo and Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Harkidus, they're all against him. So, Bob Dog, if I put up $250, how much will you match there, man? You're right. Could you imagine Bob as a neighbor? Remember that video? It was probably within the last 2 or 3 months. He's trying to talk to the neighbor across the street. I think the neighbor's name was Larry. I could be wrong. And so there's Bob with his camera trying to do his video, and Larry's outside. I kind of watched Larry, and Larry was doing everything in his fucking power to get back into his house and get the hell away from Bob. You're right, Melhar. He is the king of evidence collection. We saw that with the file cabinet in front of the Christmas tree. Bob Dog, yes. You could time. I'm sorry. You could timeshare right next to Bob. I have this vision in my head of what Bob Dog looks like, right? And sitting in that lounger, not the recliner. What do they call that? The thing in the sun with the long one. I lost the name. Drinking his little coconut drink. Hey, Bob. Francisco, not today, but we have talked about last week. It was like 9 minutes and something seconds into his video, how he put that filing cabinet right in front of the Christmas tree, which in front of that is Renee's recliner. Militant honest. If my neighbor was carrying out biohazard bags, that would be the last SOB I'd be talking to. Lounge chair. Yes, Jennifer, lounge chair, thanks. And not touching you, Bob. Go back to your little threesomes you talked about in your book. So last week, I think I kind of mentioned this, but I probably have my top 10 of Bob videos. And I saw this again this week. It probably played on BobTube, which again is a wonderful channel by God Man, who definitely is ordained by God to play Bob videos 24/7. But in any case, here, this one is just my classic, and I'm going to play it for you guys right now. Bob's at Walmart, by the way.
I have cerebral I have spina bifida occulta.
So before this continues, Bob pulls up in his security van. It's all decked out with those, what is it, like 6, 8, or 12 feet a foot antennas, and it's got the security patrol. I'm sure Bob is wearing his bright green outfit. And so he pulls into the handicap spot like a little creeper, and some guy points out, like, oh, look, the security guy is parking handicapped. And the first thing out of Bob's mouth is, I have cerebral palsy. And then he catches himself. You know, Bob, if you're going to make up shit about your disabilities, and you've been saying this script since I think you went on disability in 2003, you need to get it straight. You need to memorize your scripts. The first thing out of your mouth when this man criticized you was, I have cerebral palsy. Then you're like, oh, no. I have spina bifida occulta, blah, 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 blah. Do you really fucking care about somebody in the Walmart parking lot? Do you, Bob? But listen to the rest of this, people.
Spondylolisthesis, osteoarthritis, nerve damage in my legs and my feet. So if you want to talk, keep on talking. I got a video recorder here.
Ooh, he's got a video recorder.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that's handicapped that don't look handicapped.
Bob, you look very handicapped.
I'm
but
just
probably
letting
more
you know
mentally
what's
than
all wrong with
physically.
me. Okay.
Don't worry about me. I ain't got nothing to say.
But you said it anyhow.
Nothing about you.
Anyways, that was enough of that one. My main point with that video was that when Bob was in a pinch, he totally made up a disability or illness that he's not even diagnosed with. Let me go over here to chat. You're right, Jennifer. He couldn't decide. And I just the classic thing was, he says, I have cerebral palsy. No, you don't. If you had cerebral palsy, you'd be freaking talking about it every day, all day. You're right, militant autist. He is. I think he forgets the camera's on and he just kind of talks. If we remember, I don't know when it was, but Bob actually dropping swear words was in one of his dash cam videos. And then he said, pardon my French. You know, fucker, you can't even speak English. So don't even use the phrase, pardon my French. Yeah, dead man, you're right. He had to refer to his ailment book. Oh, wait. Oh, that's Renee. Oh, spina bifida occulta, blah, 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 blah. Yes, Melhar arthritis, and I think he played up on that this week because his thumb, because he dropped something, and instead of saying, oh, I dropped something, he'd be like, oh, my thumb gives out because of blah, 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 and I couldn't even understand it. You have many, many problems, Robert McKim Sr. Imam, if your Allah can make lightning fall on McKim today, I promise you I will be Muslim by morning. Oh, Militant Autist. Yes, I know exactly which one you're talking about. So there's that little fender bender in the opposing lane, and he pulls up, and they tell him to get the hell out of there. Actually, in my previous channel, I made a video about that because that was just hilarious. Candy capable. Yeah, zero. I'm not even giving him that much credit. Oh, Robert McKim Sr. Actually, Militant Autist, I saw your comment, and your perspective on it actually was pretty. I didn't even catch it. So, thanks to you, I kind of caught what Bob was saying. I don't think I have a plan for today, but if you listen to Bob's wording, and you can correct me, Militant, if I get it wrong, but if you listen to Bob's wording, it basically says, and I'm paraphrasing myself, I realize that ordinations from the Universal Life Church are pure bullshit. However, you still need to take me seriously. Just type out a gate scan. Leaving that alone. So, this week, Bob, let me look, get it here. Give me a second, folks. Again, it's a new setup. On his channel, Bob basically made a shitload of videos, which for Bob, it was a lot. So let's see, last stream 7 days ago. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on his evangelist preacher channel, he made videos. And then if we go over to his little channel where he dresses in security drag, he's got, give me a second, 1, 2, 4 videos. So what is it? 8 videos in less than a week. So I had to pick through. I know, obviously, if you guys follow this channel, I made some interim videos because I don't want a stream that's going to be, 8 hours long. I know Michele would love that, but I don't like that. So I made some videos about it, and I saved some stuff up here for Saturday. One of the things that was funny is very early on in the week, maybe his first video of the week, I'm not going to play the whole video because I'm not trying to put you all to sleep, but here is Bob trying to show how he's basically retarded but can't admit it.
Actually, let's get one thing straight here. The word ordination, when you say it fast, it's ordination, or die, D-I, if you break it up, or O-R, die, tation,
What a fucking
where was
idiot.
I? To ordain means to appoint.
Alright, so that's enough of that bullshit. So Bob is insisting that ordination is a word. We all know it's ordain versus ordination. But here's Bob being as exceptional as he is, trying to say that ordentation is a thing. So, you know me. Gotta prove those inconsistencies. I went over to dictionary.com. Wow! There's no results for ordentation. I also, by the way, I didn't take the screen cap of it, and I regret it now. There's no results found for ordentation either. But in any case, There is such a word, Bob, called ordination. So let's look at this phonetic here. Ordination. Ordination. It's not ordentation. There's no fucking extra T in there, buddy. But he tried to prove a point or make a case that it's ordentation. And folks, this isn't the only video where he's used ordentation. He has used ordentation since I've started watching him. So if you're ordained, wouldn't you know how your ordination is pronounced? You're such a asshole. Let me go over to chat. Oh, I need to scroll up here. Hang on. Robert McKim Sr. is blah, blah, blah. Allah Akbar, you go, Zero. His entire ministry, Zero, not only involves his, or evolves around, or involves his ego, it also involves his quest to get money from people, and sympathy and compassion. He talks to everybody about his trolls, but he fails to realize that his trolls are actually onto him. You know, Bob does have some assholes who email him and send him messages, but the bulk of the people are pretty much showing the inconsistencies. Jennifer, if you felt spoiled with all of Bob's videos, you and I need to talk and get you a life. I think if it's not the meds, Bob has always seemed like he's stroking out. Oh, Malhar, yes, I'm going to get to that soon-ish about the egg cartons. Dry mouth my ass. Ordination. Ooh, I didn't even hear the B, but I'm sure it was there. Orgasmation. Oh, Renee. Oh, Renee. Oh, Renee. I'm orgasminating. But if you remember that one video, some of the pills he takes prevents him from orgasminating. Oh, Malhar, that is so true. So true. You said it better than I could have articulated it. That my up-to-the-minute information out of the internet is not as not wholesome. Can't think of the word. But is not as true information as a book that he bought in the early 90s or 80s. Bob Dog, you crack me up. Robert McKim Sr. says Renee sharded. Well, clearly from one of the videos your vacuum works. Clean it up. Jennifer, I'm going to get to the whole Benjamin Franklin versus Thomas Jefferson thing soon. So hold on to that thought, please. You know, Zero, and I'm putting this out there. I'm not like making a statement. I guess it's a question. Does Jim Baker believe in a prosperity gospel, or does Jim Baker just try to scare people to freaking death about end days? I've never really taken Jim Baker. Yeah, he makes a lot of money, but I've never taken Jim Baker as one of them prosperity gospel kind of people. Melton Audis, Richard Whittington is well gone. He drank way too much of that Ohio water living next to Bob. Jennifer J, I want to understand you. You know I love you. But what the hell does it say? Bob should try May Haney cap out of just one day. Well, love you, Jen, Miss Jen, but I don't know what you're trying to say. Hammy cap, yes. He probably stole that Black's Law dictionary. Militant Autist, I did talk about Michele and her communication with Etika in a video this week. I didn't want to cover it again, but basically I'll recap. News broke that Etika was missing. He posted some kind of what some call suicidal post or made up post. Then they found his shit on the Manhattan Bridge. And then in Michele's live stream, somebody said, hey, Etika's missing. Will you please find him? And yes, Michele says that she's not a certified medium. Who certifies these people? But even though she says she's not a certified medium, she still goes and, communicates with his spirit. And his spirit says, oh, Etika's spirit, oh, I'm alive and well. I'm just hiding from people. And then within days, we find out from the NYPD that he actually had jumped off the bridge and killed him. Or I don't know if he jumped off the bridge, but they found his body. That's what happened. And now Michele is trying to backtrack on that, which I think is kind of hilarious. Jesse Lee Peterson, that's a new name for me, Bob Dog, so I'm going to have to look that person up. I'm going to assume, Bob Dog, if you say somebody's amazing, it probably means somebody I need to watch. Because if they're good, I don't care. Zero, you're right. And I was actually in a conversation with somebody else recently, and they told me something about Jim Baker, something new. So remember a couple weeks ago he was selling that coin to talk to God. Oh, it was some kind of special cream to take care of sexually transmitted disease. I haven't seen it myself. I just took the person I was talking to's word for it. And it just talked about some kind of special ointment to take care of STDs. And I was just thinking, the old people who follow Jim Baker and the retarded people like Bob who follow Jim Baker probably aren't having sex or can't give it up. So why would they even need that cream? And there was a whole conversation there, but I'm not going to recap it. Oh, thanks, Jen, for clarifying. If I read you correctly, if Bob can live with your handicaps for one day, and the shit you go through, Jen, I'm not talking about your bullying, but what you do and push through to get your shit. Bob wouldn't survive a moment. Zero, I did not see that Jim Baker was selling tubs of food in case Hillary won, but it wouldn't surprise me. Bob Dog. The last thing I want to see in my lifetime is Tammy face sex tapes. Mobility Mary. That's another one I'm gonna have to add to my list here to kind of check out. I'm just gonna let you folks know now, and you've heard me say this before. I'm not into retro reactions or retro conversations, so if they're not currently making videos, I'm probably not gonna follow them. There was the one guy, oh my gosh, his name acronym was GAY, gay, George some shit. He's been living on the streets for 7 months, and from my understanding hasn't made any videos, so I'm not going to follow him. Den man, I don't think Bob uses that cream, because I always go back to the video where he says his medications doesn't allow him to get it up. Militant Artist, I will tell you, I did see that live stream. Like I've said, I keep it on in the background, but I remember when you called in, and again, it was all backtracking, which was disappointing. You know what? I would rather have somebody say, well, I thought I was communicating, but I didn't. But no, Michelle's just making up big stories about it. Then man, I certainly hope Bob's not on Viagra, because I don't think it's Bob who has the problem getting aroused. I imagine that it's Renee who has the problem looking at Bob and getting aroused. All right, so if you're talking about the Dana, who I think you're talking about, Militant Artist, God, I can't remember. This Dana Marie, Dana something. I started to watch her. Was she like the Queen of Jupiter or some shit? But I gave up really quick because she was just too messed up for me. All right, Robert McKim Sr., just, you know what? Let's make that your most graphic comment of the night. You're welcome. You can stay. But let's leave that your most graphic, okay? I have no desire to be monetized, but I also don't have any desire to be stricken. So going back to Bob and his videos this week, he's done a lot, folks. He's done a lot. His big concern is something that he... All right, leaving it alone, Militant Artist. So his biggest concern is something that he learned right here on Comedy Central. Before our stream, he had no idea about it. And what was that? It was about the Tennessee law about who can sodomize relationships. And personally, I don't know why Bob is worried about shit in backwoods Kentucky. Oh my gosh. Backwoods Tennessee. I just don't get it. I mean, the village idiot himself sits in his recliner all day in buttfuck Ohio. So why is he worried about what the hell Tennessee is doing? I don't get it. But we know that Bob is very passionate about ordination mills and internet ordinations. And if you don't know, Tennessee is passing a law, which I believe starts July 1st, that says people who are ordained via the internet cannot solemnize marriages in the state. And so now Bob is on a rampage. He's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Again, Bob's in Ohio. This is a Tennessee law. Again, it's probably just impacting his ego and his sense of self-importance. Bob is incredibly exceptional. He has an empty existence. He has a dire apology of a life. And he has nothing else to bitch and moan about. But as we showed already today, he can't even pronounce ordination. He's claiming to be ordained for all these years, and I can't remember the number of years, but I want to say that he was ordained in the 80s. But in any case, and so he creates ordination and all these other words just to prove how uneducated he is and how illiterate he appears. I mean, Bob's a mess. And so we talked last week, and what happened there was somebody shared something to Third Generation, who in turn shared it to me. I was like, oh, we should include this on the stream. And that was about Tennessee's law. But then Bob made 2 back-to-back videos where he's calling the states dictator states. And I think it's hilarious. Because nowhere in the Tennessee law is the state telling the church what to do. The state is basically responding to these ordination pimps. And the state's saying that they choose not to sleep with their ordained prostitutes. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, these churches are pimping out ordinations. But the state's not saying do not ordain people over the internet. The state's not telling the church what to do. Because you got to remember, folks, marriage licenses are civil. They belong to the government. The government's doing a favor, if you will, to clergy or ministers, saying, you know what, you can go ahead and solemnize the marriage, and we'll accept it at face value, and we will sign off on that license. But it's up to the state to decide who can solemnize a marriage. It's a civil license. This has nothing to do with religion. As a matter of fact, if you look at the law closely, not closely, but if you really objectively look at the law, Tennessee law doesn't care if you're a Christian minister, a Jewish rabbi, a Muslim imam, or the rest. As long as you're a religious official, you can solemnize these marriages on our behalf. Otherwise, people are going to have to go to justices of the peace or some clerk or I don't know what the hell's going on with this microphone today, but in any case, so you're going to have to go from a ceremony in a church or some kind of religious setting, and then you're going to have to go to a clerk's office and raise your hand again and go through a bunch of hoopla. So it's better to just let ministers do it. However, Tennessee's saying we're not going to let these internet ordained ministers do it. So it's not an issue of separation of church and state, because the state has every right to say only these people could do it. A justice of the peace, a clerk of the court, this person, this person, this person. So they're setting their parameters of who can do these fucking marriages. Let me come over to chat. All right, I gotta scroll down because you guys are, I'm way ahead of you. Militant Autist, I haven't looked into the guy who ordained Bob as a pastor back in the day. I personally think it was a bunch of bullshit because back in the day, yeah, the internet and forums and the rest were not popular, but you could still write in or fax into the Universal Life Church and get ordained. But I know who you're talking about. Well, Militant, the reason why Bob doesn't do the whole marriage thing with Renee, and I don't know if you watched the video, but I will still enlighten you or represent you, is if Bob officially marries Renee, Renee's Social Security or SSI will go down by 25%. Okay, so instead of making $1,000 a month, what did they go down to? What, like $750 a month combined? It's more than that, but I'm using round numbers. So Bob's doing everything in his power to say that they are not married. So Bob has said in many videos that they are married in a church marriage. They have a covenant before God, but heaven forbid they go in front of a state. Remember, it's separation church and state. Heaven forbid they go in front of a state agency to proclaim their marriage, because then there will be a 25% reduction on Renee's part of the income. So right now they're making $700 something a month each. So what's 20% of 740? So rounding here, they would lose $150 a month if the Social Security Administration found out that they're actually married. And you're right, Bob Dog. If they got more money for saying they were married, yeah, he'd be all over that. But in reality, Renee's portion of the SSI would be reduced. And I haven't heard this yet, so I'm taking it on very good authority. It was Richard Whittington, whoever brought him up earlier, who taught Bob McKim that little scam for the Social Security Administration, say you're not married. I don't know why he won't marry. Well, and you have a little bit of a thing there, Milton. I'm just saying that he won't marry her officially because there will be a reduction in money. And remember, my belief, and I will hold to it, is that Renee is Bob's cash cow. So a 25% reduction is huge. He won't be able to afford the fancy internet. Hey, Gwen, thank you for recognizing me as Reverend Lewis. As far as I know, I'm still Reverend Lewis R. McKim Sr. Jr. I haven't received an email revoking my ordination. So anyways, going back, I was kind of already starting to say that the state is saying what it will and will not do. It's the state's licenses. It's not the church licenses, right? You know, marriage licenses are issued from the government. They're not issued from the church. So Christians, Jews, Muslims, and other religious sects certainly put a very big emphasis on marriage. And some hold it as a sacrament, be it 7 sacraments, 10 sacraments, or 613 sacraments or laws. Others simply see it as a, scripture-based sacred bond. And that's all good. I'm not going to, try to make a case against that. But every religious group that I've researched sees marriage as one of their huge milestones, if you will. But going back, it is the state offering the license. It is a civil license. It is the state who dictates who can or cannot solemnize a marriage. And yeah, it's easier when your minister can do it because you show up to the church or wherever you show up, and the minister does his little thingy, hocus pocus dominocus, and boom, you have a marriage certificate. But at the end of the day, it is the state's right to decide who can or cannot do it. So get it straight, Bob. The state's not being a dictator. The state's not telling the church what to do. However, the state is saying this is what we will or will not accept. So I don't get what your problem is. Then Bob goes on. He's talking about the separation of church and state. And he talks about how the words separation of church and state appear in a letter. Now, if you folks don't know, the words separation of church and state do not appear in the Constitution. It was actually in a letter between Thomas Jefferson and I believe the head of the Baptists at the time. So it was Thomas Jefferson's opinion. If I recall correctly, Jefferson wasn't even a president at the time. Those two were just in some kind of conversation. Back in the day, you had to write the letter, put a little postage on it, send it. Today, that would have been an IM, right? And so Bob's going on about separation of church and state, and all the while in the back of my head is I'm thinking to myself, I would rather see efforts for a separation between Bob and society, or a separation between Bob and fraudulent Social Security benefits. And yes, Bob, before you even try to make a video, let me tell you something right now. Someone recently sent me a bunch of social media caps, screenshots, like you like to do, Bob, where Renee is using the McKim surname. Now, Bob, if you don't know what a surname is, that means last name, right? So Renee is using the McKim surname. We saw in that review earlier today where Renee is calling herself a McKim. And you yourself have videos calling her your wife. So yes, Bob, there is enough evidence to prove that you are lying to the Social Security Administration about your living situation. And to add insult to injury, you're also Renee's representative payee. Now, Renee, according to you, using your words, has been diagnosed retarded, right? And so you swoop in and you try to take control of her finances. So not only are you in a fraudulent living situation, but you have very questionable practices as a representative payee. So you know what, Bob? Go ahead and make any video you want, because I already have a 14-minute video set up to prove anything you're going to say wrong. All right, I'm off, Bob. Let me go to chat. Build a wall around Bob's trailer. I've been trying, Gwen. Milton August, I don't know if he cheated on his wife. Just because of the timeline, I'm not disputing you. So I don't know how that all worked out. But Bob does clearly talk about in his book where he engaged in a threesome and his wife eventually became a lesbian. If you really listen to the earlier videos, I believe, and it was recent, but I'm losing it now. I want to say he said in an early video she was bisexual. Then, of course, when she met her current spouse, he changed it to lesbian. Surname. Yeah, that's right. It's funny, Zero, you said surname like a title of nobility. I'm thinking surname as in a porn video. Make trailer parks great again. Oh my god, I need that hat. Yes, Jennifer, I'm sure you know Bob talks about that threesome in his video. I've thought about that, Zero, like who the hell would want to be in a threesome with Bob, but this is how I reason it. Back in the day, Bob was skinny. I'm not going to say he was attractive because I don't judge guys as attractive or not attractive, but Bob was skinnier. He wasn't an old fat fuck in a lime green vest, right? So there could have been where there was a threesome. And it could have been that a husband and wife wanted to invite the town retard or the village idiot in for shits and giggles. Yes, Jennifer, Bobby McKim read that portion. I remember that one. What's wrong with Richard Whittington's forehead? From what the reasonable people tell me, he had some kind of cancer that they had to remove. My personal opinion is he's sitting there with freaking pliers trying to find the RIFD chip in his head. All right. So let me see where I was. I actually make bullet points. It's not a script. It's just bullet points to make sure I say what I want to say. All right. So Bob's going on about the law in Tennessee. Bob lives in Ohio. There's a very slim chance that his van will make it from Carrollton to the Tennessee border. But, you know what? Bob needs something to bitch about or he's not happy. I mean, let's face it. Bob's a Bible thumper. He has a very strong stance on LGBT people, black people, African Americans, colored people, whatever you want to call it. And Bob doesn't like foreigners either. So Bob would actually fit into the stereotypical Tennessee. But chances are his first ceremony, if you will, would actually solemnize a marriage between first cousins. But in Bob's book, that'll be totally okay, right? First cousins, it doesn't matter. You're white and you're straight. That's all that matters to me. Now pay me my $100. Small unmarked bills, please. You know. And then I think to the kids that can result out of those inbred relationships. You know, the sad fucking thing, people, is the kids would turn out exactly like Bob did. And who wants to raise a generation of barefoot, illiterate boblets, right? Who will become future paper boys or paper carriers and ultimately welfare whores. So, in a way, Bob can blend in with Tennessee, but the result of his ministry is going to be devastating. And if you remember from the Mad Lib from last week, you know, if Bob does do a wedding in Tennessee, he can show off his false prophet skills by turning water into moonshine at the wedding reception in the KFC parking lot. How's that? All right, let me come over to chat here. Oh my God, I just glanced at my monitor screen. I saw the word spoiled sperms. I'm a little afraid. Scrolling up here. Richard Whittington actually got in a fight with Bob because he took some mood drug that had crazy side effects that made him horny enough to masturbate on camera until he showed blood. And yes, he did post that on YouTube. You're right. If you don't know, Richard Whittington did in fact masturbate on camera and upload it. Zero, which one seems schizophrenic? They're all schizophrenic. You're right, Militant. Bob did get quite upset about that video. I think Bob was jealous. Autism is supposed to be the offspring of a bipolar father and schizophrenic mother. Never heard that one before, Gwen, but oddly makes sense. Not reading zeros. Zero, what you did in your bedroom as a teenager is your business. Imam third did not marry a horse. Bobbert, however, you need to worry about. Yes, Robert McKim Sr., you are doing fraud. Gwen. Actually, Militant, I know that Kiwi has a screenshot of that video. If I find a link between now and next Saturday, I'll share it with you. I really don't want to share it here, but I'll share it. That entire video in its entirety is actually still out there. Bad genes produce bad offspring. Yes, spoiled sperm. Ew. Gwen and Robert are having a conversation about threesomes and incest. Robert McKim Sr., I don't care if Richard is small, huge, or in between. Yes, Militant, Bob did get in a circle jerk with his cousins, because remember, boys will be boys. Not reading that one from McKim Sr. Yes, Militant Artist, Bob does like thick and gloppy cow milk. Oh, God, you guys are a mess. I love you all, but you're a mess. So continuing on in the video, Bob is also not only talks about the Tennessee marriage law that he learned about here on Comedy Central, but Bob also goes into, it's out of California, it's ACR maybe 99, which talks about people in, I think it was referred to as high moral authority. I don't have it in front of me. And going against people who do this gay conversion therapy, also known as reparative therapy. And my minor research in that shows that many people think that reparative therapy is not good. And if there's anything where the state, how can I say this? If there's anything where the state may be crossing the line, is saying what a preacher can preach from the pulpit or do in their active ministry. That's just following letter of the law. However, if you have ministers doing something incredibly horrible, where there's research that suggests that what they're doing is not good, where is that line? Go back to Jim Jones and the whole grape Kool-Aid thing. If the state knew that Jim Jones was going to be passing out all this Kool-Aid to people, would it have been illegal for the state to step in and stop it from happening? And I know it might seem like extremes, but my question is, in that situation where Jim Jones killed or led all them people to kill themselves, how is it different than people sending their kids and loved ones off to these gay concentration camps and these gay brainwashing camps? When can the state step in where there is some harm to people? Discuss amongst yourselves. Let me go to chat here. Zero, because I screen changes here, but you said it should be, conversion therapy should be illegal. It already is in several states, but where does a separation of church and state come in? I agree, Gwen. And you're right, Zero. They're more concerned about these not normal things. I don't want to say not normal. These things that also happen to happen. But yet these same people who are screaming the loudest, we see on the frickin' news, who are getting busted in motels with 17-year-old male prostitutes. Not repeating that Bob Dog, but I agree with you. Bob Dog, who needs to repent? I'm just going to throw it out. Not starting a debate, but who needs to repent in that situation? And you know what, Zero? Fine. I agree with you. The government needs to intervene. But you have all these Roman Catholic priests who have centuries old allegations of a culture of what is it, MAP, same sex, the one we are attracted to minors. Is it MAP? You know, you have this whole culture of MAP attraction and fostering it. Butt pumper. I haven't heard that one before, Bob Dog, but I love it. You're a butt pumper. That's going to be a Bob's next video. So in any case, that was that for Bob and his ideas for separation of church and state. Bob was very misinformed. Bob just wants people to validate his phony existence. So what we're going to do for the next 3 minutes is we are going to take a break because, you know what? I'm not ashamed. I have the world's smallest bladder, and third generation is not here to be put on the spot. So we're going to take a small intermission. You all also go and empty your bladders and refill your beverages. And I will be back in 2 to 3 minutes. All right, we are back. Gwen, you and I are in the same boat regarding that unloading. Yes, Zero. No, this wasn't Doobie Brothers. It was a modern take on gospel music. So, enough about Bob and separation of church and state, because he clearly didn't get it. He didn't even understand the difference between Thomas Jefferson's letter and Benjamin Franklin's, which I'll admit to you all, that I didn't do too much research on what Benjamin Franklin had to say on it. But it's nothing what Bob attempted to present. Oh, Robert McKim Sr., I am glad you pissed yourself. But you clean up Renee's recliner. Who's cleaning up yours? Are you flying Jennifer J out to do it for you? So then in the rest of his videos, Bob is doing everything in his power to prove that he's not a hoarder, right? Look. And in another video, Bob shows us that he actually got the Tupperware that he was bitching about that he wasn't getting. What I found interesting in the videos, I'm not going to play them all because I don't want to be here till 3 o'clock in the morning. But Bob had all these videos showing the trailer. And what's noticeably different for me is that the junk is kind of reducing. It's getting less and less because he's taking it out to the garbage or to the recycling place, wherever he's doing it, just to prove us wrong that he's not a slob and he's not a hoarder. I remember he opened that one bag. It was one of his biohazard bags he bought off of Amazon. He's like, these are all the pill bottles, which I didn't think pill bottles needed a biohazard bag, but whatever. But there had to have been at least fucking 3 years of pill bottles in that bag. And he's like, oh, here's these egg cartons I get, and I saved them up for some old couple in my church who raised chickens. There was at least a freaking decade's worth of egg cartons there. I'll go over to chat. I don't want to know what Bob wears his biohazard bags. You're right, Mel. That entire trailer needs to be wrapped in a biohazard bag. And then I pointed out last weekend, I think it was, like, what the hell is going on with that one cabinet right below the sink? I'm like, is there stuff on the floor or whatever? And Bob's like, oh, I need to leave this door open in the winter time. Bob, it was fucking June. Why is that door still open? And so he closes the door in that video. And if you all remember, there was a video after that where he pans the kitchen and that door is back open again. It's like, why do you leave it open? It makes no sense to me. And then he's talking about, oh, I only leave my griddle on at what, like 200 or 250 degrees or something like that. So it has low splash. But if you look at that crock pot and anything else around that griddle, it's covered in freaking grease splash that hasn't been cleaned since freaking Jesus was crucified. You know, I mean, who is he trying to fool? We have the videos. We have the proof, Bob. You're not fooling anybody. And then he panned over. He showed that Lazy Susan that was broken, whatever. And yeah, I know they break. But in all these years, you could have gotten it fixed, Bob. Stop burning your bridges and begging people for shit. And then he pans over to the one cabinet over there to the right. Oh, my son helped me build this. And I didn't care about the shelves. I looked at the food because you know what? I do volunteer at food pantries. I actually volunteer for 3 different USDA programs, mainly TFAP, Temporary Emergency Food Assistance Program, the Senior Program, Commodities, and the rest. I know what that food looks like. I pass this shit out every month. Bob had a whole shitload of USDA peanut butter in there. He had a whole shitload of that horrible, horrible, horrible canned broth. See, the food pantry I work for actually makes us taste it, so we have an idea of what we're serving to people. It's horrible. Now, if you don't know, food pantries have two different types of systems. There's the first system which is called a push system. So that means you're giving people a box or a bag or whatever of food. Like, this is what you get, take it, move on. You don't get a choice. And then there's client choice, where they might have little shelves set up and they might say have limits, but it'd be like, okay, I'll take a peanut butter, or a green bean, a ramen, and this, and that. But even in a push system where they just push the food on you, you can go to your box, whether right there, in your car, or at home, and decide on the things you don't want. And then the next time you go, you could take it back, so that way it could be put back into the system so other people can have it. But if you look inside Bob's fucking cabinet, he had more peanut butter than a peanut farm. And then, if I remember right, there's a video of him talking about how peanut butter throws off his sugar. I mean, he makes no sense. Let me go to chat really quick. You're right, Jennifer, that crockpot was definitely heinous. How many vacuums do they need? Well, probably a million, since nobody vacuums. Bob probably thinks if I buy a vacuum, it magically sucks up everything. And remember that one video? It was one of them, one of the 8. It was hilarious. He's like, well, look, there's a vacuum here. It's not charged. He hits the button. It starts working, much like his little Presto popcorn maker. And it starts working. So he's like, look, I can vacuum. And you'd think he vacuums every day, but if you really listen to the audio, it's sucking shit up. It's sucking what I assume is salt, from throwing it outside in the wintertime. So when was the last time Bob vacuumed? And then he had the nerve to say, well, in case Renee ever gets the desire to vacuum, or however he said it. Renee is actually sick. Renee has issues. Do you try to put her in her place that much? Do you make her think that she's a slave that much, that she is the one who has the vacuum? Because I'm sure it pained you deeply to do the vacuuming yourself. Militant artist, that's funny. DFAP sounds like a tranny brothel. It's actually not correcting you, but just for information, it's like it's TEFAP. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely ungrateful, and he hoards all that food. And if you don't want to eat something, you know what? Personally, I'll eat green beans, but it's not my go-to. So if I went to a food pantry and they handed me 3 cans of green beans, they're going to get it back. Not because I'm an ungrateful bastard, but you know what? I don't eat green beans, so here, take these green beans and give them to somebody who eats them or who needs them. You're right, Melhar. I mean, he has more shit in there that, yeah, the trailer's gonna fall over one day. Well, Zero, yeah, he might be saving for the end times, but there's a whole video how all that peanut butter threw off his sugar. And maybe, just maybe, I may be wrong, That's why he got fired from a job. And Gwen, that's an awesome idea. If you have food in your pantry that you're not going to eat, you're not going to touch, then donate it. But don't donate shit that has the rusted bottoms or rusted corners or expired. Because here's the general rule, and this is what the food pantry that I volunteer for really tries to push to us, is if I'm not going to eat it myself, why should I push it off on another person? So in that same vein, if that food is still edible, still good dated, not rusty, yeah, donate it. But if it's rusty, has dents or whatever, just throw it the hell out. And make sure you put it in a biohazard bin. Yeah, if Renee wants to vacuum, I'd love to see Renee get out of that recliner. Yes, Militant Artist, when he starved that whole winter, if I remember the Bisexual Ministries channels video, I might be wrong with the numbers, but it was like the Great Starvation of 73. Zero, I'm not touching Jesus coming. Mel Hart, you were banned? Did Bob actually block you? You're such a sweet, innocent person. Even though he can't say your name. Well, Jennifer, you can have more food than Bob. I'm joking. He was definitely all about 5 strips of bacon. I'm still of the belief that he made those 5 strips of bacon at half a cup of hash browns and rice. It was all for him. Maybe Renee was sleeping. Maybe she could have not been in the out of the house, but I'm sure the breakfast was for him. Actually, Zero, I actually love turkey bacon. Food shelter fraud. Zero, I don't think Renee's quiet because if you really watch some of his videos, especially early on, Renee is kind of coaching him on what to say. Because he'll be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. So she's giving him the words and ideas. Lately, I kind of think she's just sick of him. I don't know, Milton Artist. I don't know what's up with Joe. I did see what I assume you're talking about. I love Joe, and I also know that Joe always has something up his sleeve, or maybe the FBI did really seize his channel. In any case, I hope Joe comes back under his name or a different name. And Militant Artist, you asked, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, if the hole in Bob's ceiling is a joke or if it's true. If you watch any of his videos this week where he pans the trailer, you can clearly see the hole. One thing that I noticed this week is there in front of that, so you have the hole in the ceiling, and then right in front of it you have another bow. So I am guessing one or two more rains or rainstorms, and Bob's going to have a huge, massive hole in that ceiling. I mean, and I said it earlier, and I'm not kidding. He should probably go and try to negotiate buying a trailer several lots down from him. Ugh, God, I do not like this over here. Zero, I don't question Joe and his plans, but the best thing I can say about Joe is he always has something up his sleeve. Mel, I kind of wonder if Bob rations out the shower soap and how many times Renee can use the towel. Speaking of Storm Spotter, Bob posted a video at like 3 o'clock in the morning this morning, and he was showing that thunderstorm. I actually kind of found it cool. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was dark out. It was cloudy, and the lightning was going. You could see it behind the clouds and lighting up the sky. That was probably one of the coolest things that Bob has shown, which I'm so surprised he got out of the recliner to record it. Yeah, Bob is dumb, but folks, Bob posted a video about love thy neighbor, that nobody loves their neighbor. Here's kind of how I see it. If it's not clear, and I would say this to his face, I don't give a shit about Bob. Bob is Bob. I care about Renee. Renee has a diagnosis of being mentally retarded, quote unquote, according to Bob. Renee has a whole slew of illnesses, physiological illnesses. We know from other people that the reason Renee was attracted to Bob was because Bob actually had a car, in his own place, so Renee can live independently. So for Renee, I don't see her as using Bob. I see it more as Renee using it as an opportunity. Where I have a problem is that Bob in turn is using Renee. And Bob sees money. And I kind of lost my connection here, how I wanted to say it. But I want to say it the right way, because let me think about it for a second. Let me go back to chat. You're right, Jennifer. I mean, how much are they paying in heat and electric because of poor insulation and upkeep? Milton Artist, please give me that exact timestamp if you can remember it or can find it, where we can see the sky from his ceiling. Yeah, I mean, Bob needs to get another trailer. And he really, really, I mean, he spent, what was it, $500 on that one? It was already old. And you got to remember, folks, these trailers that Bob lives in from the 1970s, they weren't built to last, right? If my research was right, they were really only meant to last like 10 years, right? It was like it was your throwaway, when people would throw away money. In this day and age, trailers and manufactured homes and modular homes and the rest are almost built to last longer than houses, right? But what Bob's living in is complete shit. I'm going to guess that Bob's trailer is probably from the 70s. And if I really look at it, I'm going to guess from the mid 70s. So Bob either needs to take pride and fix his own place and stop spending money on stupid shit, or he really needs to go get that trailer next door. Because without seeing any pictures or anything else, I'm going to bet that trailer next door to him is in much better condition than the one he's living in. Oh, Milton. Okay, I know what you're saying. Uh, uh, the hole is huge. So whether you can see the sky or not, I don't know. But it's clearly a hole in the ceiling with that insulation dropping down right above Renee's recliner. It's not a good situation. Jennifer J., you said that Bob's trailer is from 1972. Are you just saying that, or did he say that in the past? Just curious. Well, Militant Artist, you're allowed to like him. Just because I don't like him as the host or whatever content creator doesn't mean you're not allowed to. I'm not going to ridicule you for liking him or disliking him. I know what you're trying to say, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't matter to me. I personally will never like Bob just because of how he manipulates people. No, I live in May of them. Oh, okay, you lived. Okay, that's fair, Jennifer. And yeah, I mean, I think his is clearly from the early 70s, mid 70s. Regardless if it was early 70s or mid 70s, it wasn't designed to last until 2020. The fact that Bob still has 4 walls standing up beside him, not including the ceiling, is a fucking miracle. Militant Artist, I do not wish Bob harm. I do not wish him death. I don't wish him anything that's not beneficial to his life. However, if Bob, let me find your words. If Bob croaked on us tomorrow, I would not be sad. Because Bob has done so much harm to people. Bob is leading people, or has the potential to lead people into killing themselves. Think of somebody who may be questioning their sexuality, right? And Bob is saying, you're a sinner, you're going to hell, you're a sinner, you're a sinner, you're a sinner. And that person kills themselves as a result of listening to Bob's message. That's what bothers me. And I really don't give a shit in either way for the whole LGBT thing. And yeah, that was a bit of an extreme. But the way Bob talks, casting people into hell, if people really die and people really go to hell, or people really die because of Bob, that opens up a whole bigger issue for me, because there is no love, there's no compassion, there's no mercy in his message, because Bob's life has been so horrible that he needs to make sure everybody else around him or who views him has the same horrible life. And I want to be very clear with you, sir. I'm not disagreeing with you, trying to make you right or wrong, but that's how I approach it. You know, militant artist, I think I know what you're trying to say. I may not, so let me just respond to that. If Bob died, you are not going to get a video out of me saying, oh, he was such a great man. He was so wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. No, I'm going to talk about Bob alive like I would talk about him if he was dead. If, heaven forbid, anybody invite me to do his eulogy, because I'll be the first person up there saying, here lies a fucking asshole. That's right, Zero. Here lies fucking asshole. Paperboy 40 years ago, dead today. And I don't make light of death, but I would not feel the least bit sad if Bob transitioned or Bob turned off his YouTube account, because I think Bob does more harm than good. Milhar, if Bob ever dies, I want to be your first phone call, because you and I are going to go together. We're going to dress in black. We're going to put them black veils on our face, and we're going to be like them paid mourners just crying in front of that casket. Ooh! Renee would still be at home in the recliner, but we could send her a YouTube video. It's bothering me to have to look over here for chat. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see what Militant says. I think you kind of give Bob a little too much credit in terms of him harming folks. The guy is dumb as shit and clearly not all there. You're right. You're right. I agree with you 100%. But I watch BobTube. There are people who come along all the time who think he's live or think his message is real. And I kind of think about it that if people land on the BobTube channel, they're either searching for BBW, or they're searching for Flat Earth, or they're searching for a live pastor. So imagine if you're searching for a live pastor and you have some issues or questions about life. Let's just say you are somewhere on that LGBT spectrum. And so you're questioning or whatever, right? And so you're searching on YouTube, pastor questioning, whatever, and you land on Bob's channel, and Bob is condemning you to hell. You know, yeah, I'm taking an extreme here, but let's just be real. You know, there's no realistic pastor doing the things that Bob does. Not disagreeing with you on purpose. I'm just saying. I think that Bob treats all women the same way that that women are beneath men. And in my opinion, you can clearly see that in the whole thing with his vacuum cleaners. Well, look, it's charged, you know, in case Renee wants to vacuum. Heaven forbid you fucking vacuum. Malhar, I kind of agree with you. It's not kind of. I think it's because you're female. And in the case of like third generation is in his early 20s, blah, 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 blah. And so if you're younger than him, he thinks you're stupid. If you're female, he thinks you're stupid. And Bob has kind of said as much. If you really watch his videos, he thinks just because he's a man, he's superior. But also, Mel, I don't know for sure, but if I recall correctly, and I could be wrong, I think you also may have a connection to JHA or motorcycles or something that Bob can't stand. There's a video where he's really talking against you, and I really want to say, I could be wrong, but I really want to say that he connects you to JHA somehow. And I want to give the quote, but giving a quote would dox you on my part. Aw. Gwen's got a doggy. I have a cat who's upset that I'm here. Hey, Luna, welcome. I've been waiting for you. The only reason I kept the stream going is I'm waiting for Luna's words of wisdom for Bob. Oh, Luna's at a wedding reception, so Luna's turning water into wine as we speak. All hail Luna. Yeah, you know what, Mel, there is something between, and again, I don't want to dox you out, but he does say something about you and JHA. Oh, third generation showed up. Welcome. Hopefully you're alive and well, and when you died last night and went to heaven, Jesus sent you back. I love Luna. So I will read Luna's message in case Bob can't read it or understand it. Luna says, Bob, you're not a doctor. You're a delusional piece of shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Paul sent you back. Sorry. Clearly, third generation German American doesn't watch the Messianic Jew like Bob does. So, third generation, since you're here, you clearly died last night and you went to heaven, and Paul sent you back. But while you were there waiting at the gates or whatever, have you seen any celebrities or any other sightings while you were there? I'd be curious. Did you happen to have a look at the guest registry to see who's on the list? I want to know if Jennifer J's on the list. I may have said earlier, but one of the other things I wanted to say today is Bob pans his camera over to show Renee, and Renee had those little glasses on. It really added to her face value. And I hope I'm not repeating myself, but I thought to myself, add a little bit of makeup, and Renee would be like so attractive, right? Yeah, she's a little chunky, but she'd be so attractive. What I'm getting at is she could find somebody better than Bob. She could find somebody with a car. She could find somebody who's not going to use her for her income. She could have her independence. I mean, I didn't get all goo goo gaga over her, but I thought, wow, like she looks good with them glasses on. Renee can clean herself up. Of course, third generation would be sad. Well, my kind, she can be or is. Actually, no. I think she is a strong woman. But she sees something in Bob she didn't get with her last husband. She doesn't realize that the pasture is greater than just this oppressive, money sucking Bob. Gwen, I know of George, but I didn't dig in too deep. Which, incidentally, if any of you all follow a cow, I don't have a lot, even before this past week, I don't have a lot of time to follow it. So if there's somebody you really follow and you want to report on each week, message me. Let me know, because I'll bring you on to talk about. So if you're like a George expert, I'll bring you on for a few minutes to talk about the goings on in George's world. Hey, sis. Hey, sissy, welcome. I am glad you are here. And I don't know, but feel free to contact me on Discord. That's probably the best way. Contact me on Twitter. Email me. I don't have a problem bringing some of you on. I'm still hesitant to open those phone lines, even though I have a phone line. But I'll bring you on to talk about a certain person. Oh, wow. Robert McKim Sr. I am angry. Renee, don't leave me. Don't leave me. I am smart. You're so delusional. I agree, Mel. She's She saw Bob as independence, and Bob saw her as money. Still don't like looking here. I don't mean to keep bitching about it, but I don't like the chat here. You know, the other thing this week, as I mentioned early on, that Bob has been making a lot of videos and going nuts. I mean, the reality is in Carrollton, it's been 80 degrees plus. The humidity's been high. They've been trapped. Both of them have been trapped in the trailer like two rats. And they're probably getting at each other. And then in one video, probably the same video with the glasses, where Renee was wearing glasses, Bob says that Renee's not feeling well. And we know how Renee gets when she's not feeling well. So she's taking it out on Bob. And Bob has nobody else to take it out on but us. So there's a very good chance that all of Bob's videos this week are in a response to Renee being miserable. And it's not like she's not already miserable, but if she's not feeling well, is in pain or whatever's going on, it's just going to make matters worse. Sissy, I think, and since third generation seems to be hanging around, he's much better at this instant recall than I am. I want to say that Renee is maybe 15 years younger, if not more, a little bit less. But Renee is definitely younger than that asshole. Mike Hunt, you're right. Even if Renee is using Bob, she could do much better. And I just hope she does do much better. You know, I joke a lot. And I don't like Bob. I will be clear. Out of all the lol cows I follow, I don't like Bob. But I don't have any single issue with Renee. You know, I see all the things that we are doing with bringing or focusing on his hoarding and Bob's bullshit more in protection of Renee than anything else. You know, so if he clears out that trailer, gets rid of this, does this, fixes the hole in the ceiling, I don't see it as making Bob's life better. I see it as making Renee's life better. And so if I had to have a mission in life right now, it's how do I make Renee's life better, totally understanding why she's with him. Because, you know, folks, not being mean, being sincere, Renee is mentally retarded. Don't like that phrase, but you know what I'm getting at. You know, she's physiologically not of the right mind. So how can we make that life better for her? Militant Audis, did Tommy really unblock you? You of all people. I have like 4 sock accounts that can't get unblocked, so good for you. Mel Har, I believe she's in her 40s. I don't think she's in her 30s. Sissy, she is young compared to Bob. Oh, here's Jennifer. I want to hear this because I'm intrigued. I don't mean to say this disrespectfully, but I don't feel bad for Renee. She has family that is more than willing to take her in. She's not stuck in this. Yes, I agree with you. She did choose to be there. She did choose Bob. She does have a family who's willing to take her in. If I remember a JHA video, he even had savings accounts for her life. And yeah, it sounds morbid that he had a savings account for her funeral, but Renee is sick. So that kind of shows the intentions on his part. I do think her family is a little overbearing, though, from what I've seen out of JHA, which I love JHA, nothing against them, but I think a combination of JHA and Renee's biological mother can be overwhelming for Renee. Yeah. But how do you get her away from Bob? She needs to find another man who. I'm not being funny when I say this. She needs to find another man who has a car, his own place, his own whatever, and who's not going to talk down to her. Mike Hunt, I don't think Renee would do well going back home to Indiana. I know what you're trying to say. I I don't I don't see that as beneficial. You're right, Mike Hunt. Renee is diagnosed mentally retarded or mentally challenged, and Bob saw opportunity. One thing I don't know, do any of you know, or I don't remember, is how did Bob even meet Renee? Like, how did those two spirits come to dance together? Well, Militant, I think JHA does need to be careful. JHA does have his opinions, and I respect them, whether they agree or disagree with my own. But JHA is also married to Renee's biological mother, and that could make a very awkward household situation, and we know that from videos. Classified ad posted it. Yeah, possibly. I can't remember. I knew it one time, but I just can't remember. I don't know if Renee has a social worker, really. I mean, she crossed state lines, this, and that. Bob became representative payee. So I don't know if she was assigned an Ohio social worker. At the same time, I agree with the second part of your sentence that Renee probably needs more of an assisted type situation than being with Bob. She'll disagree, and obviously Bob will disagree. Mel Hard, give your hubby a high five from me. Did y'all see the weird news story over the past week or two about the man? I think he was from Israel. He robbed a bank, and it actually made me think of Renee. That's why I'm bringing it up. But he used an avocado because avocados can look like grenades. So he walked in with these. He walked in with these two or three avocados to make it look like grenades and rob the bank. And I was just thinking to myself, I could just see like Renee doing this, and Bob's got the van outside, waiting as the getaway truck, a truck van. right. So, in any case, folks, I am done with the things I wanted to say. I'm willing to keep it going if you guys keep engaging, giving stuff here. I always enjoy all of you. I mean, there's only one of you here who I don't care for. Y'all guess. But I'm just kidding. But I'm glad you all contribute. Milton Artist has said something. There we go. You're right, Militant. They are both using each other. There's no doubt about that. Renee may be 42. Yeah, that sounds about right, Mel. He's not bitter. Oh, I get it. It's not you, Mel. I promise it's not you. But I'm still bitter about that flippin' Tupperware. Speaking of Tupperware, I don't know if you were here when I talked about it or you saw it, but Bob actually got the Tupperware that he was crying about, but he never updated anybody. Yes, Militant. Yeah. Eudora and Richard are the model couple. Tupperware is no joke. No. Yeah, I mean, he's like, "Oh, look, and here's the Tupperware." He didn't. These weren't his words. This was the Tupperware that I cried about and whined about that I didn't get. But oh yeah, by the way, I got it and it's here. And I don't know. Look closely, people. Was that also filled with grease? I think I missed somebody. I gotta scroll back a little bit. Bear with me. Ugh, don't like it here. Oh, that's why I missed Third Generation was saying goodnight like an hour ago. Good night, Third. All right, folks. It is probably like 2.5 hours into the stream. I don't have much more to offer. If you guys have more to offer, feel free to hurry up and type it in. You know, I said it earlier. I'm going to repeat it. When I do call-ins, especially like when Third Generation joins us, it's your Discord. So if you have a Discord, or you have the ability to get Discord, you know, talk to me on Discord, and we can, you know, try to bring you into the live stream. Email me, tweet me, whatever. I really, the people I know, there's probably only like 2 people who I would never bring on my live stream. And I'm not going to say who they are, but I can probably tell you that one of the 2 are not here. So, you know, I don't have any issue with that. Uh-oh. Robert McKim Sr., I like men. Yes, Militant Artist, you need Discord. And I say that tongue in cheek. But if you email me, Militant, here, I'll give you the email address. And no, I'm not going to dox you. But I'll give you the email. I may give you the phone number to call in just for you. Because I know you call into Michelle's show And you actually have good things to say. Nobody's emailing you, Robert McKim Sr., except people signing you up for shit. You should feel special, Militant. You should. You're like a hometown hero here in Comedy Central, or Calminty. I need to think of a byline with Bob's way he says it. I was thinking Comedy Central, minty fresh content. All right, folks. So it's been, Calminty. In my content, I think you owe me a couple replies, just saying. But in any case, folks, I am so glad you are here. You joined us. You know, I could make videos all day long like I did in a previous channel, but one of the things I love about the live is there's this interaction that's live, you know, and we can kind of go from there. As I started off saying, and I'm going to conclude saying, yeah, I have a lot of changes in my personal life, and I'm still committed to live streams and videos. I don't know what that's going to hold. I won't know till maybe next week. But unless you do not see it scheduled, we will meet each other again. We will meet each other again next Saturday, if not before. It's been great. Email me, message me, and we can go from there. But until I see you guys next, God bless and have a good rest of the week.